Welcome to another software tutorial. In this one we're going to take a look at Illustrator once again, and instead of shapes we're going to take a look at the line tool. And this is going to be the finished product of what we're going to do today when it comes to the line tool. So this is what we start off with. And as you can see, we're going to add in some lines for the window. We're going to add in this line here at the very bottom. And add in some additional lines here and there. Starting off with, I want to make sure that you have everything set up in your Adobe Illustrator before we get started. So in your Adobe Illustrator, whenever you bring up your project, first thing you want to make sure you do is turn on your control bar. This is the bar up here. So you can go to Window, Control, and that will toggle that on. Normally at the very a lot of times that is turned off by default, or at least it is with mine. So you do need to turn that on. You can also turn on underneath that is where you can turn on the toolbars, advanced or basic. You really will only need basic for this, but if you do want the advanced toolbar, this is where you get turned on. In addition, underneath this in the Windows panel is all of your panels for Adobe. This is the same place in Adobe Illustrator, same thing in Adobe Photoshop. So this is where all your panels are located at. And so if they are checked, that means that they are currently visible in your workspace. So as you can see, by default, we have most of the time, by default, you have your properties, layers, and libraries panels already up. What you need to make sure you do is you need to check the swatches. And by default, that probably comes up over here. You can leave it there, or you can drag it underneath. And what you can do is you just drag it and drop it underneath it. Where you have this blue, you'll have a blue line. You can drag it and drop it, and it will dock the panel in there with that, and you can kind of adjust it how you need to. But this is, you'll really want the swatches, as we're going to use the swatches in order to add additional colors to our swatch that we're going to use. So we're going to reuse this kind of turquoise color. As well as this blue, and while it may be already here, we're going to go and select these colors, add them to our swatch to make it super easy to use. That way you also know how to add in colors to your swatches. So if you ever don't have a panel, you can always find that panel here in the windows, and you will never use all the panels for a given project. Most time you use just a few panels depending on what you're trying to do. So with this one we're going to use the properties panel and the swatches panel. So if you haven't already, make sure you go to File, Open, locate your downloaded AI file, which in this case is going to be creating _lines.ai. AI is the default extension for Adobe Illustrator. Adobe Illustrator can open up multiple different file extensions, but AI is the default Illustrator file. So you'll open that up, and this is what you will open up and see. We're going to use the line tool, which is behind the rectangle tool. So you'll probably have the rectangle tool or one of the other tools listed there, whichever one you did last from if you followed along in our previous video when we're dealing with shapes and the robot. So we want to make sure we select the line tool. As you see, the backslash tool right here, that is the keyboard shortcut for the line tool. If you ever make a mistake, so if I go and draw a line and I don't want it, remember we can hold down Control and hit the letter Z in order to go step backwards. If I just click once, it's going to come up with this line segment tool option. this is not what we're going to be using. We're just going to simply just draw our shape, our lines, similar to how we did our shapes. So to begin with, we're going to do our line here on our tree. So we're going to start here towards the center, draw a line downwards. We can move it however you want to. So if I select it here, I can select the selection tool, click on the white square, and I can readjust where I want it to be. If I want it to be straight up and down, I can hold the shift key and that will lock it to up and down and 45-degree angles, as you can see on that little box. So holding down shift key will lock it to those 45-degree angles. So we want to go straight down, and as we get closer to the bottom of the yellow building, you can see that intersection magenta line pops up because I have Smart Guides turned on, and I can let go. Remember, Smart Guides is down here under View and Smart Guides. So you definitely want that turned on, and you also want Snap to Points turned on. Next, we're going to need to reselect the line tool, and we're going to draw in a couple of different tree branches, one going off in that direction, and we'll draw one going off in this direction. It doesn't have to be exact, just something that gives you a little bit of a look of a tree. Next, we're going to take a look at how we can adjust the stroke. So if we draw a line over here, remember we can hold down shift, that will keep it straight across. Once we let go, if we hover over the ends, you'll see we have a rotation, so I can rotate the line however I want to. Again, I can hold down shift in order to lock it to a straight up and down. I can rotate it back. Holding down the shift key keeps it parallel. I then want to select the selection tool. Again, that keyboard shortcut is letter V, as you can see there. I want to click on the line and I want to move it down to around here. I want to select or click on the white square and I want to pull it all the way to the right, making sure that it is that magenta color, as that's signaling that we are extending that line. Next, over here on the stroke, I want to, with that line selected, I want to change the line stroke from 1 to 16. Depending on where yours is, you can use with it currently selected, you can use the arrow keys in order to move it up and down or left and right to get it looking the way you want to. Mine just so happens to be perfect for once, so I don't need to move mine, but if you need to move yours up and down, you can use the up and down arrow keys in order to do so. Next, we want this to be green, so we're going to select the stroke color. Again, this is the stroke color, not the fill color, so we want to do a stroke color, and you can select one of these greens. Next, we're going to select our line tool again, and we're going to do the swatch color for the undersides of these buildings. So I'm going to draw a line underneath it here, holding down shift. I want to reduce this to 8. Use my arrow key to pull that up a little bit. Next, I want to use this eyedropper tool. For these two, I want it to be this same teal right here, so I want to select that. My swatch panel is here, so yours is maybe either here or here, depending on where you put it. I want to drag this color right here in the fill, drag it down and place it down here in my swatches. Now you can see that it's popped up down here in my swatches. I can also do the same thing for this blue since we're here. And now on this project, now I have those two new colors there in my swatches that I can use. So with that line selected, I need to, mine disappeared, so I need to make it 8 again. Click on the stroke, and now I can click on that turquoise color. Do the same thing for this side. That's one I did last, so it's automatically going to pop up. And I can do the same thing for these as well. These I want it to be that blue color. The last thing we want to do is we're just going to draw in our lines for our windows. All of these lines need to be white. And a 1-point fill or a 1-point stroke. Because we have our smart guides, it tells us that it is centered. Draw a line through there. Do your best you can on eyeballing the center points. Same thing down here. And that is the use of the line tool. From here, go and we can go File, Save As. Here you can change, and you want to make sure you save this as a finished so that you know which one is finished, as you always want to make sure that you keep your original file. That way, in case you ever need to go back and redo something, you have your original there. You also want to always make sure that you save your finished versions. So we will save that. You also want to come in here, File, Save As, and change this as a PDF, and save your finished version as a PDF. It's also helpful, as this is for an assignment and that you're turning in. Always also come in here and you can put in your last name, and that will help with those turn-ins. For this one, make sure you turn in that PDF to your assignment in Schoology. Thank you for watching this tutorial. Stay tuned for our next tutorial where we take a look at merging those shapes that we created originally.